Hello and welcome to Eco Africa. On today's show, we will talk about the problem of plastic waste and other waste and the impact the COVID-19 pandemic is having on the environment. I'm Neo Taigwe in Lagos, Nigeria.
And I am Sandra Twinoblio here in Kampala, the capital of Uganda. A big hello to everybody. Thank you for joining us. As always, we have lots of interesting stories for you from Africa and Europe on a range of environmental issues. But first, here is what is coming up in a bit. How young people in Uganda are launching businesses that benefit society. How German cities are preparing for the climate crisis. And why a man in Senegal walks around covered in plastic bags. How can jobs be created for young people while at the same time protecting our planet and its resources? Close to our capital, Kampala, we visited a learning hub which encourages young people to turn their business visions into reality.
Our house collapsed. My only beloved grandmother died from the injuries she suffered. So I turned my painful past into a motivation. I never knew that what I'm doing would turn this big to me and to the environment.
I felt unloved, I felt discriminated because of my often falling sick from malaria. I am now part of the solution in my country.
Two people, each with a vision. Joe Nalubega produces soap with a scent that repels mosquitoes. According to the UN, every 2 minutes a child under the age of 5 dies of malaria.
Even if I'm not saving all the kids that are suffering right now, I am at least saving the ones that I can.
John Mary Kavuma is founder and director of the green business Upcycle Africa, which builds houses out of recycled plastic bottles. Kavuma and Nalubega are graduates of the Social Innovation Academy, or SINA for short. It's located in the town of Mpigi, about 30 kilometers south of Uganda's capital, Kampala. Here, young people, including orphans and street kids, learn how to develop their ideas into successful businesses. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, only a few students are currently able to attend classes on campus.
Especially in Uganda, people are not prepared to work together, to present themselves, to ask critical questions, to find their own solutions, their own answers. And we're all learning that in SINA, and that's why often not everybody will become an entrepreneur, but many of our scholars as well that have been in SINA have found jobs.
One of the solutions led to Kampala, where plastic waste is a huge problem. 350,000 tons of trash accumulate in the Ugandan capital every year, and only half of it is disposed of. Much of the plastic lands on this trash dump. Recycling isn't common here. John Mary Kavuma pays young trash collectors to gather bottles that he can then use to build houses.
Every time I come here and I do give some money to other people to do, for example, recycling or keeping our environment clean, it gives me a lot of hope that even the future generation will inherit a healthy planet that we have done or we have protected from plastic waste.
Earth is pressed into the plastic bottles to make bricks. Many women work for Kavuma's business, giving them the chance to earn their own money. Kavuma says the houses are cool inside, even on hot days. His business has already constructed more than 100 buildings, using over 3 million plastic bottles in the process. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, commissions have slowed, but there is funding coming in from abroad.
We are revising different solutions on the way we can be able to survive as a company. However, we also got some people who came along to support us. For example, we got some funding from IKEA and Achumen that decided to support us, especially in the era of COVID-19.
Joe Nalubega has brought a few bars of soap to one of the women who supply her with lemongrass, a key ingredient in her product. Before the COVID-19 crisis, Nalubega charged tourists and hotels a bit more for her soap, so she could keep the price down for locals. But now that there are hardly any tourists, she's expanded her online business.
I have a vision to make my country a better place. I have a vision to make Africa, instead of running away from it, to make it a better place.
If my grandmother happened to see me now, I know she'll be proud of me.
Protection and conservation, that's also what our next report is about. In recent decades, Ghana has lost vast tracts of rainforest. It is a situation that is worsening climate change.
That's right, Sandra. One local eco-activist and entrepreneur decided to address the problem and reforested a piece of land. By practicing sustainable forestry there, he helped revive the natural ecosystem. His enterprise is not only a boom for the environment, it's become a popular destination for eco-tourists.
So, can I have the ladies come forward?
This is a moment Wellington Biden particularly enjoys, treating his visitors to the intoxicating scent of ylang ylang blossoms.
Okay. You can pass it around to the gentleman, but back's going to smell like that for weeks.
That's good. Really?
Walking in the flower garden, it's quite beautiful. It's very nice to see that there's an area like this in Ghana that others, whether they're here in Ghana or even outside of the country, can come to and actually enjoy nature.
It started 20 years ago when Biden planted up his holding of 210 acres. He founded Portal Forest Estates and initially just sold wood products.
We thought we could intercrop with food crops and keep it going by selling those food crops to generate short-term revenue. Except that the community and the workers kept eating everything even before it was ready.
To generate more income, he and his team had another idea. They decided to propagate local plants and extract essential oils. In 2018, they added eco-tourism. During every tour, visitors are served up a typical Ghanaian dish that is made exclusively of local forest produce. Wellington Biden is also linking up with the local community in Bedum. He has hired several locals as chefs and tour guides or to work in his laboratory. Technician Isaac Kudjo is in charge of producing the essential oils as well as natural cosmetics such as soap.
Because our products are natural, sourced from the forest, they tend to have less side effects. And then they really have give that very effective treatment, like for aromatherapy. You can really get the feel of the aroma from the plant. And they have no side effects or anything, whatever.
The oils are sold across the country, including in the capital, Accra. Retailers there also provide interested customers with detailed information about the products. On guided tours, visitors hear about the company's mission. Future plans include sustainable construction projects for their eco-tourism business.
This is because we want to reduce our carbon footprint on the environment. Typical construction activities are environmentally unfriendly. We want to reduce that and be more environmentally friendly.
Wellington Biden attaches great importance to passing on his knowledge to the next generation.
Now our main focus is the Experiential Learning Center, where we're going to teach people what we have learned over the last 20 years. This is the only way that we can quickly disseminate what we've learned, because it's all about training and empowering people to also go out there and do it themselves.
In that way, Biden's projects provide an example to local residents, showing how they too can make a living from protecting the forest.
Now, more than half of the population of Nigeria live in urban cities like Lagos and others. Urbanization is on the rise all over the world, not just in Africa. In Europe currently, more than 70% of the population already lives in towns and cities. But a growing problem is that cities are vulnerable to extreme weather caused by climate change. In Germany, steps are being taken to protect towns from heat and massive rainfall with the help of nature.
These young trees, fresh from the nursery, are being planted in a new residential neighborhood complex in Hamburg. The leaves on some look surprisingly green and fresh, given how late it is in the year, especially when compared to these beech saplings. They are Spates alder, a hybrid species bred from Japanese and Caucasian alder with many beneficial characteristics. Nursery owner Bernhard von Ehren explains that when it gets hot, the pores in their leaves close to retain valuable moisture.
We haven't planted many of the Spates alder yet. It's new here, a climate change tree, a city tree of the future. We still have to see how they fare in urban settings. My suspicion is they're far superior to native species.
Around the corner are some Spates alder that were planted in the spring. The summer was very dry, but they're still looking good. Better than the endemic species here.
20 years ago, we started to say that we're going to have to plant different kinds of trees, new ones, better suited to cities, where they're subjected to a lot of stress. It took a while for people to sit up and listen.
Climate change is playing havoc with cities around the world. One reason why many cities can't deal well with heavy rain or floods is that so much city surface is covered by concrete, and water can't seep into the ground. Environmental scientists complain that this ceiling effect means half of all rainfall is lost compared to woodlands and meadows, and not available to people or nature.
Rainwater that's channeled straight into drains and carried away is gone. It can't evaporate, and it's removed from the natural water cycle. Evaporation cools the air, and we feel that. All the sealed surfaces heat up a lot and stay hot if there's no cooling effect from evaporation. That's one reason we get urban heat islands.
An alternative approach can be found in southern Berlin, in a neighborhood where sponge city water management principles have been adopted. Here, rainwater is collected on open ground and roofs and channeled into local pools. It doesn't just disappear down the drain and get whisked away. Hanna Krüger is a geographer and hydrologist who works for Berlin's own municipal water company think tank.
Rainwater is a very valuable resource. We need it to adapt our city to a changing climate. That's why our goal is to manage and use it locally.
The entire project takes up 10 hectares. It's full of unpaved surfaces, strips of garden, and the roofs here are also covered in soil and plants. Lots of opportunities for rainwater to be soaked up and slowly released into the air or ground.
Rainwater seeps directly into the ground between the paving stones, or it flows into little depressions in the ground like this one. That's why there's a gap in the curb. And that water sinks in or it evaporates, thus benefiting the trees.
Bernhard von Ehren set up his climate cops 5 years ago. His heat-resistant trees can't do entirely without water, but it will take time to find out just how much water they need and how well they adapt.
We're still in the early stages. We're testing 61 species of tree, seeing how they fare. We've been growing some of the species for decades, so we already know their strengths and weaknesses.
His nursery has so far raised 10,000 trees new to Germany's urban landscapes, but better able to weather climate change. Trees like the turkey oak, a new climate tree which is being introduced more frequently into Hamburg's neighborhoods, all of which should make for some pretty cool cities.
Talking about cities, one thing you will find in many urban homes are works of art. Beyond making us happy, these art pieces can also draw attention to social issues like environmental pollution. In today's edition of Doing Your Bit for the Environment, we meet an impressive Nigerian artist whose sculptures do just that.
lifelike creations made of sawdust, a material that's plentiful in Lagos. Too plentiful, says Nigerian artist Olalekan Lashekan. It's a sign of how many trees are being cut down. Nigeria's forests are shrinking. The artist uses the sawdust to highlight the problem. Mixed with water, it can be molded into all kinds of animals and insects, from spiders to big cats.
Animals are crying because their ecosystem, their means of living is being taken away by human beings. They are crying in the wilderness. And as we are creating awareness for environment, we are empowering people.
His works cost between 200 and 600 euros a piece. He sells them directly from his studio or online. Olalekan Lashekan has won numerous awards, both for his works and his commitment to the environment.
And how about you? If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
We now talk about one of the world's greatest waste disposal services. I'm talking about the one provided by vultures. These scavengers are not only willing, they are eager to do the dirty work of cleaning up carcasses found in the wild.
Of course, Nyote, and did you know that there are 23 different species of the bat across the world? Sadly, for too many of them, they are under threat. But the fact is, vultures play a vital role in keeping ecosystems healthy, which makes them well worth protecting. Let's take a look.
Over half of Africa's 11 vulture species are teetering on the brink of extinction. The environmental NGO Nature Kenya has been observing the development in East Africa. It's distressing because without these scavengers, dead animals would rot wherever they dropped, and that could upset entire ecosystems.
Vultures are very much important in cleaning the environment. We call them the nature's undertaker. They clean the environment, all the dead carcasses, and by doing this, they stop the spread of diseases like anthrax, botulism, and all that.
Nature Kenya introduced a vulture conservation program in the Masai Mara Nature Reserve in 2014. Its aim is to spread awareness of the crucial role vultures play. This group of Masai work is Nature Kenya's vulture ambassadors. They explain to villagers when a dead cow or goat is poisoned by agrochemicals in order to kill predators that threaten their livestock. All of the animals that feed on the carcass are poisoned, and that includes a lot of vultures.
So as a vulture volunteer, I usually go to each my region, for example, in my location. I usually go take some data concerning human-wildlife conflict. When there is a conflict, I go settle that issue before it's poisoned. We actually sometimes take the carcasses of those let's say killed animals, and we put them aside, and you can actually talk to the owner of the animal not to poison it. Yeah.
Support from villagers and their leaders is key to the NGO's campaign. The assistant chief of one village tells us that battles between humans and animals are an ongoing issue in the Talek area.
There is a lot of conflict. Animals are being killed by lions, hyenas, or leopards. And people are also getting killed by elephants, buffaloes, and lions. That danger presents a serious challenge for us. We have a conflict incident every day.
But too often, the main victims of these conflicts are vultures, and that's the environmentalists' message. To put an end to the agonizing deaths, Nature Kenya also cooperates with the Mara Reserve's rangers.
I think the biggest challenge is in the issue of reporting, like cases of poisoning. We normally don't get a lot of reports from the community because they know that it's a crime, and so a lot of these cases go unreported.
But reporting the cases would give the conservationists a chance to save the birds. That's why keeping communication channels open is important.
Also supported by BirdLife International, the program is focused mainly on East Africa because that's where vulture death rates are especially high. The campaign's push to improve the exchange of information is now starting to yield results.
We are getting reports on human-wildlife conflict and also responses to vultures poisoning. And by this, some vultures have been saved because there is poisoning response protocol that is being followed in case of any wildlife poisoning incident.
This year, an international initiative was launched with the goal of reducing vulture mortality in Africa by 50% within the next decade. But for it to work, it's vital that the local communities are also on board.
So true. You need to motivate communities to take part in conservation activities, especially when it gets to plastic. So many cities are drowning in litter, and plastic is not biodegradable. It just hangs around for many years in ever smaller pieces and particles. So raising awareness is the name of the game. Let's go to Senegal to meet a master at drawing attention to the problem, which during coronavirus period is easier said than done.
Modufol has had to change tack in his fight against plastic waste. With the world in the grips of a pandemic, his only tool right now is his smartphone. But that's not likely to draw nearly as much attention. This is what usually looks like. Modou is Senegal's most renowned anti-plastic campaigner. For more than 15 years, he's been going around schools, neighborhoods and markets like this one in Dakar and swapping plastic bags for paper ones instead. While some people are put off by his unusual appearance, he usually gets his message across. Hey, don't take these bags. I just want to show you the alternative. Stop plastic. Use this instead. He ties the plastic bags he gets to his suit to stop them from polluting the environment. Dakar, like many cities in the world, has a plastic pollution problem. Around 10% of Dakar's waste is plastic-based, and most of it ends up in the streets. Modufol doesn't hesitate to engage people in conversation. Medina Gunas sells tea. She's already switched to paper cups. Through an association he heads, Modou wants to achieve a zero-waste Senegal and help people find alternatives, such as making their own bags out of fabric, something that's relatively easy to do here. Everyone can do it. Go to the fabric stand and buy some fabric. Ask your tailor to make you a bag. When it gets a bit dirty, you can wash and reuse it several times. It's much better than using a plastic bag that took 1 second to make, 20 seconds to use, and will cause 400 years of pollution. Modou's passion for environmental protection began after he completed his military service. Returning to Dakar, he thought the city looked like a huge dump site. He had to take action. People thought he was crazy, including his family. But today his wife, Lisa, couldn't be prouder of what her husband has achieved. In 2016, the country's president awarded him the National Order of Merit. Modou has also helped his community plant around 600 trees according to the slogan, "One house, one tree." It's been a long campaign, but now many have come around to Modou's way of thinking. Even the government is getting serious about enforcing laws about single-use plastics. I'm not allowing myself to stop entirely, but I have to carry on the fight and push the authorities. There's still a lot to do. It could take another 20 years before we pick up all the types of plastic in the ground. And I'll be behind the youth, encouraging them to be an example. Once the coronavirus restrictions are lifted, Modou will be able to continue his work in earnest. In the meantime, perhaps the growing awareness of hygiene will go some way towards winning the battle against plastic waste.
It is good to know that we can all make a difference, even in small local ways. Sadly, that is all we have for you today on Eco Africa. We hope you've enjoyed the show as much as we did. It is a goodbye from me, Sandra Twinobio, from Kampala, the capital of Uganda, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you once again next week.
We look forward to being with you for a new edition of Eco Africa next week. In the meantime, you can visit us on social media or send us your thoughts on environmental issues that concern you. Goodbye for now from me, Neo Taigwe, in Lagos, Nigeria, and do take care.